Thank you, snowboarding.
Thank you, snowboarding.
Hey friends, how you doing? My name is Chris Cracknell. You are listening to Thank You Snowboarding, the podcast that dives into all aspects of UK snowboarding culture, from the early guys building snowboards up in Scotland to the current crop of UK shredders killing it on the world scene. And we do this with the kind support of our friends at the Snowboard Asylum, who have been looking after snowboarders for 35 years. What they don't know about snowboarding isn't worth knowing, and if you need some new kit, then go and see those guys. So how are you doing? I'm fresh back from a trip to the Three Valleys, staying at former guest house Chris Moran, his renovated barn in a town called Bozell, which is an amazing place to stay. And we had 4 days of properly having it all around the mountain at very high speed. And because I was in the company of my brother Dave Cracknell, Danny Wheeler, Chris Moran, John O'Verity showed up for the last day, Andrew Hingston, also known as Ribbo. And what a crew it was, and what an amazing time we've had. I feel like I've been run over today. My body is absolutely in pieces. So I'd say we pushed it quite hard. A group of 40, 50 somethings all trying to relive former glories. And none more so than my guest this week, Scott Mcmorris. Now, I'm sure you know who Scott is. Scott is one of the best riders, one of the heaviest hitters to come out of the UK. And someone I didn't actually know that well until this week. My brother has done seasons with him in Whistler, and obviously him and Danny know each other well. And although we've sort of crossed paths a few times, I didn't actually know Scott very well. So it's been a real pleasure spending a few days with him, riding with him, watching his insane style on a snowboard. And he has still got it. He's certainly not like me, who's trying to get it back. Scott still has it in spades. And there's a bit in the interview where I'm trying to describe what his style is like, and I worked it out by watching him as he came riding past me one day. His style is efficient, I would say. He makes it look very, very easy indeed. And he's an absolute G. I know kind of loads of people have always spoke very highly of him, and I'm glad to say that I can now too. So let's do it. We start off talking about the infamous head cam in lockdown projects, which I still think is one of the most funny things to ever come out on like in a snowboard movie. So let's do it. Scott Mcmorris. And your acting skills in it. How many times did it take you to fucking get that shot?
I'm trying to remember now. I think it was probably, we were out there for a good hour, I think, at the base of Whistler Blackcomb, in the middle of absolute carnage of punters coming off the hill.
Did you help make the helmet cam?
I mean, I was there when Gendel and Tim were kind of duct taping it onto the helmet. I wasn't particularly sure at first, to be honest.
Right.
And they're like, don't worry about it, be fine. You know, just put this on your head and you'll be okay, and we'll stand there and we'll film it. We'll be done really quickly, so don't worry.
Yeah.
So I kind of just went along with it.
I mean, do you, like, as a sort of professional sportsman, do you have a little bit of like, I don't want to look like a dick? Like, how am I going to come across in this? Or is it just like, I'm in for this is going to be good?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think to begin with, I was maybe a bit apprehensive about it. But then, you know, maybe stemming back from that, I think the whole Gendel and Tim thing, I put a lot of trust in what they were doing and what they were filming.
Yeah.
So I knew what the outcome was going to be great. Like, I knew it was going to be...
Because was it in that one where you do the thing about, like, fixing the helicopter, Nate's taking pictures of you modelling and stuff like that?
Yeah,
I mean, you fucking lace it. Like, you're genuinely, like, solid, good acting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean... Have
you ever had any acting
No, none at all. Absolutely none at all. But it never really felt like it was just acting. It just felt like we were just mucking about and having a bit of fun. And you know, I mean, I wouldn't like to say it came naturally, but it was one of the easier things that we did because we were just having such a laugh.
I mean, obviously they cut it together. I mean, it's beautiful. Like, goes through all the things, and you see some headcam footage of you hitting jumps and stuff like that. And you're going, oh man, it's such a pleasure to be like, you know, involved in this new technology and stuff. Yeah. And then when it just cuts to you with this massive camera duct taped to a helmet, and you just deadpan it. Yeah. It's just
it's one thing you don't really expect to see it like that. But I spoke like that while we were at the base of Whistler. Because they took all the sound bites from me just freestyling it or chatting.
Oh, so you just made up all the dialogue?
Just made it all up, yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. That's so good. But I mean, even the ones you did with Nate, like the modelling thing. I mean, you're a handsome fellow, let's be honest. I mean...
But again, I don't know how that came about. I think we were just, like, again, Gedl and Tim were talking about the narrative of like what they were trying to achieve and what they were trying to film. So a lot of it was just like ad-lib mucking about and trying to get some random stuff on camera and on film. And Nate's pretty good like that because in front of camera he can just make stuff up on the spot. You know, he's quite good like that. And I guess that maybe brought out my kind of random actingness. I don't know.
I mean, it was. I mean, it's something to behold. And if anyone's listening who hasn't seen it, then I'll clip it up and put it on the YouTube channel because it's just too good. Or just go and watch the whole of Terminal Ferocity, basically.
Yeah.
Had you done any like skits for any of the other ones? Because they started sort of bringing them in a bit, didn't they? Sort of throughout all the films.
Yeah, and I think we did. I think they started off when John and Tom were filming their videos to begin with. Yeah. They came up with kind of some of the initial ideas. And then from that kind of paved the way for Gendel and Tim's creativeness, and they always came up with like, we want to do this, and we want to do that, and because they had the idea of me singing.
Oh, really?
Marty Pello in front of the X Factor judges.
Oh, that's somewhere, isn't it?
People actually genuinely thought I was on X Factor.
Yeah.
That and the helmet cam skit, they're like the two ones that people always remember.
Yeah.
And they always come up to me and go like, holy shit, you're on X Factor. And I'm like, yeah, I did. I genuinely went on it. No, I didn't.
Fucking Marty Pello as well. I mean, that's...
Exactly, I know.
Apparently he's like a proper, like, hard man. Sort of, he's got this image of, like, he's a soppy singer and everything, but apparently he's a real, like, hard bastard.
Is he?
From Glasgow or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was he, did he not go sort of through...
I don't know.
Hard times, I think, as well.
That's all I know.
Yeah.
Someone's talking about that recently.
Yeah. But the skits were amazing. And I think as well, kind of, I was properly all in for it all as well.
Do you think it adds something to your, like, makes your section sort of stand out in people's minds? Do you know what I mean? Because they relate, especially like a UK audience, relate to the humour and everything.
Yeah. And
then watch your writing. So like, fucking hell, like... That's great. So, like, then stick around for your riding. Do you know what I mean? And that makes it more memorable. Is there something in that?
Yeah, possibly. Maybe it's a good way of them remembering the good skits, and then and then hopefully my riding backed up the jokingness of just mucking about and having a good skit.
Well, I mean, undoubtedly. I mean, your riding. So I was watching, sort of jumping back a bit. Who sent me someone? Oh, I think John Eldridge sent me the Invasion and the sequel, and I got them digitised.
Okay.
And it's funny, watching the Invasion, everyone just looks so young.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone's really realised what this thing could become, like what these movies could mean to their careers and how that would bring in outside interest and stuff. So it feels quite amateur, but then all of a sudden, for the next one, everyone's sort of like up their game a bit. Mm-hmm. And I remember your section in particular, it's like goes from like quite a fresh-faced young version of you, and then all of a sudden it's like you've been listening to hip hop all summer and decided to fucking gangster it up for a little bit. Yeah. Tell me about that. Is that what happened?
I mean, that was off the back of my first season. So I'd moved out to Whistler with Elliot and Grant and Cy Brass, Hamish McKnight. God, there was such a crew of us, and I think that was my first experience of doing my first season.
Right.
And at the time, I was being flowed product locally in the UK through Scott Todd in Edinburgh, and I guess I was kind of like locally sponsored, which was amazing. And then we moved out to Whistler, and it was a bit of an eye opener. Like, all these local kids were so good. The standard was so high.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, shit, man, I'm gonna have to up my game here massively. If this is something that I want to try and pursue.
So you had it in your mind that you wanted to be like a good snowboarder.
Yeah,
it wasn't just like doing a season for a laugh.
No. I wasn't doing it on I wasn't doing it on a whim, because I guess the reason I got to do a season because I had just finished school when I was 18.
Right.
And at the time of my last year at school, I was getting flowed product. I'd done the local dry slope scene. I'd competed in Edinburgh. We'd been down to High Wycombe. We'd been all over the UK.
Yeah.
And by this point, Elliot had come back he'd done a few seasons, I think a couple in Val d'Isere. He'd come back from Whistler and was like, shit, we need to go there. It's like, it's amazing. It's unreal. So I remember kind of, speaking to my parents at the time, and I was like, shit, I want to do a season away. I want to do a winter.
Yeah.
And my mum specifically was like, okay, if you get into a college,
right,
or university or whatever it may be, you can go away and do a season, and you can defer it for a year.
Yeah.
But only if you get into college or
yeah.
university. So you've got something to fall back on. So I was like, right, okay, that's the deal. That's the kind of the ultimatum.
Yeah, yeah.
So, cut a long story short, studied art in sixth form. I got into Newcastle Art College to study photography.
Oh, really?
So, I always had a camera.
Didn't know that.
Around me when I was like 17, 18, because I was big into skateboarding, and I was shooting lots of photos and just lifestyle stuff, just whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And built my kind of portfolio around that. Got into Newcastle, went to Whistler, kind of in the back of my head, knowing that I probably was never going to go, because I knew that I'd go out to Whistler and be like, I need to come back. This is awesome. I need to continue doing this. And then I think we had a really good season, came back for the Brits. I think I won the junior British champs.
Which one would that have been?
So that was Meyerhofen. When would that have been? March 2000. April 2000, I think.
Yeah, I'd stopped going to them by then, I think, because we had the chalet, so then I was sort of stuck over there.
So that was my first kind of proper experience of competing at the Brits. Although I'd been to a couple before that, but...
Yeah, I guess if you come from dry slope, then you would have known the sort of background of a lot of like who the people are that organise everything.
But I mean, I was just kind of competing on dry slope. So when I got to the Brits, I was, wasn't really hitting the jumps and doing anything notable to get noticed or anything. And then competed in the Brits. That's right, 2000 March, April time. Won the junior big air, I think. And then I got third overall, I think, in the adult section. So obviously got home pretty stoked. Yeah. And then I was like, right, well, I'll do another year. Persuaded my mum that I was like, okay, I'll do another year. I'll defer the course for another year. Yeah. And then she was like, okay. So went back to Whistler. And then I think that's when it just all started to like properly click. Yeah. Because I'd been skating so much during the summer that I kind of looked to skating for such a influence of tricks. And
of course, yeah.
Just the style and things like that.
I mean, were you skating before you started snowboarding?
No, picked it up after.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was kind of back to front.
That's an unusual path to tread, isn't it? Because
I started snowboarding when I was 12 off the back of skiing, because I skied from age of 3.
Yeah, you were saying the other day that like your parents used to go up to the highlands like every weekend. Or
my dad didn't really take to skiing really. He came to it quite late, so he wasn't really that fussed about it, but my mum was like fully into it. Yeah. Without doubt, every winter, every weekend, we were up at Glencoe.
So when you were born, they just took you with them?
Yeah. Myself and my 2 older brothers. And we were up there all the time, so skiing was just like, it was just a part of what we did.
Yeah.
So she used to take us away occasionally, like during the winter as well. So we,
I mean, that's not were you in Edinburgh then at the time?
Yeah.
Like you grew up in Edinburgh?
Yeah.
Because Edinburgh to the Highlands, I mean, that's still a trek, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good
2 or 3 hours?
2 hours 45.
Yeah.
One way. And we would do that in a day.
So you'd drive up there, have the day, and then drive back in the evening.
And then go back up on the Sunday.
No way.
Yeah, we'd sometimes do 2 days back to back.
That's crazy.
And it'd be like horrendous weather.
Yeah.
Like, I used
course.
to hate it. I used to absolutely fucking hate it. Well, no, I didn't hate it. I hated more the coming down part I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
But it was the walking, the ski boots,
Yeah.
the poles. I just couldn't bear it.
So would you just go anywhere that the conditions were all right, or did you go like Aviemore or
Always going cool.
always going?
Yeah, always going cool. Because my mum's brother, my uncle, he had quite a close affiliation with the Scottish Ski Club hut, which is based at Glencoe. So we would always go up and hang out in the ski club hut and have hot chocolate and just regardless of the weather. So it was just like we were always there.
Yeah.
And occasionally we go to Glenshee and then over Easter she might whip us away we'd go on holiday, go skiing.
Wicked.
On family ski holidays and whatnot. So skiing was such a big thing from an early age. And then my oldest brother, Greg, he kind of became quite friendly with Brian Stark from Boardwise.
Oh yeah.
So early 90s.
Yeah.
And he got into snowboarding and he was coming home with like a nitro and all this sort of stuff. And I was just like into that, man, shit, this is awesome. Like, what is that? Never seen it before.
So you hadn't seen anyone snowboarding up like in the mountains?
Not that I can remember, no.
Right.
Because I think back then it was pretty scarce. You didn't really see
Well,
much of it. But yeah, my mum was pretty adamant that she didn't want me to start snowboarding too early for some reason. I'm not sure why.
I think there used to be that sort of myth, wasn't there, that they used to ski first and then when you're bigger and more developed, then you can start snowboarding. I think that's been widely regarded as bullshit now, isn't it? But
well, yeah.
I'm not dissing your mum, by the way.
I know.
But I've heard that from other people.
So my oldest brother started, then Stu, my middle brother, started. So they were off having fun. And
So you're the youngest?
I'm the youngest, yeah.
Says it all.
So I was like waiting, and then we were in St Antoine actually on a family holiday.
Nice.
And my mum was like, "Okay, you can snowboard for a day. We'll get you a board.
Yeah.
We'll get you some boards." So I got like a Luke snowboard with like hard boots. I think I wore my ski boots.
Nice.
And
that was my first day on a snowboard as well. It
was pretty.
I think it was a hot 160 with ski boots.
I remember it quite well, and Stu basically took me up to this lift that was like an access chair from the base of the resort, and he was like, "Right, we'll take you up to the top." Showed me the basics, and then him and my mum just sort of fucked off. They just left me there on my own, 12 years old.
Really?
Yeah. And I just basically lapped the chair all day until they came back at lunch, and then I kind of had the basics.
It's the mechanics of a ski is like you're stood on it differently, but essentially the mechanics are the same, aren't they? Like if you know how a ski turns, you can apply that to a snowboard.
Yeah.
At the age of 12.
That's it. And I just kind of cracked on. And then by the end of the day, I kind of got the idea of it. And then that was it. I was hooked after that. But then I was only ever able to do it the following winter.
Right.
So there was a good sort of 6, 7, 8 month gap before I could go again. And
did you not go to Hill End?
Well, at the time, no. Well, we just didn't. There was no scene. There was nobody really snowboarding then.
No.
And then it wasn't really until kind of...
Did you ever go there on skis?
Occasionally.
Or just you didn't need to because you're always lapping up to the Highlands?
Yeah, mainly because we didn't really do it during the summer or
Right.
springtime. It was mainly because we were doing so much of it up north. And then it wasn't until I started snowboarding... I'd met Grant and Hamish at school, and they'd already picked up snowboarding. I kind of got to know them.
Yeah.
And then they introduced me to skateboarding when I was like, sort of 13.
So what era of skateboarding was that then? Like what that the small wheels, end of the small wheels era?
Yeah, just the end of the small wheels going into the chunkier ones.
Yeah.
The big fat jobs.
And what was the skate scene in Edinburgh like? Did you tap into that?
Yeah, it was sick. We spent most of our time up at Bristol Square.
Yeah.
Which is like a university kind of owned area on the south part of the city. So it was kind of like a plaza style, but more public walk-through way with like ledges and stairs and had a monument. But that was the skate hub for Edinburgh. And I remember going there first, learning how to skate. But it took me ages to learn how to even ollie. It took me like 7 or 8 months. I just couldn't get my head around it.
Skating's just so difficult.
So difficult. But then once you kind of unlocked that, it just, became a bit easier.
Did you ever think about wanting to become a pro skateboarder? Or like pursue a career in skating?
It was just so difficult. I didn't take to it very naturally. It wasn't an easy sport to pick up. I think I kind of found snowboarding probably slightly easier of the two.
Is there a thing with snowboarding as well? It's the environment in which you do it. Like for me, it's coming to the mountains. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Dry Slope was cool because it was a cool scene. But really, it's being in the mountains.
It's the whole experience.
That's 50% of the draw. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like doing the thing, but I love being in the mountains.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if, like from your experience of going up to the Highlands a lot and doing this thing, skating's very much an urban environment, isn't it?
Yeah. I think a mixture of both. I loved the fact of going up north. Okay, I know I said I didn't enjoy it when I was super, super young, but when I got a bit older, certainly with the snowboard crew that we had back home, the enjoyment of going up, there was the experience of being in the mountains.
Yeah.
But then equally so when I got a bit better at skating, and there was a really close group of friends that I still see now that they're like my best mates, but we grew up skating together.
Yeah.
So it was kind of the same, but more in that urban skate scene. We would go to skate spots. We would go anywhere to skate, underground car parks, film, shoot photos, create content.
Yeah. Just
for our own enjoyment. So it's kind of polar opposites, but plugging into two different scenes.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. And I felt like they both kind of lent off each other. And that's probably going back to like Whistler days. That second season was when it all kind of sort of took off a little bit more.
Yeah.
I kind of understood what was probably expected if I wanted to try and pursue it as a career.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe your style then came from, skating a bit. Because it's quite, I remember, I think, chatting with Danny years ago, and it was, someone mentioned You're Right, and everyone was like, yeah, man, he's got some fucking style. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's like heavy, I think heavy steez was the word that was used. Do you know what I mean? Like, even now riding with you, like you've got a look about you. Do you know what I mean? And you've always had that. Well, that seemed to sort of happen quite quickly.
Yeah.
From from my perspective, you became this you got really good really quickly, and it looked good as well. Yeah.
I think I always wanted to try and do the tricks that I could do well and smooth, because I grew up watching all these videos where I wanted to try and, I suppose, emulate what I was watching and what I was seeing. And then certainly being around my peers in the industry, spending time with Danny when I was on West Beach, a little bit in Whistler and up in Canada. And at the time just being a bit in awe of him because he was like this super pro.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah, of course.
And always been aware of how other people at that level were riding and how they looked. And I was like, right, well, if I want to try and do something, I want it to try and be as smooth and as stylish as possible.
Yeah.
So maybe it came from then.
So when did it sort of turn into, because, there was quite a lot of sponsored riders at the time, wasn't there?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people being hooked up and a lot of people trying to make it. When did it become like more real for you, where you're actually like, this is what I'm going to do? Because you went, like, you went to New Zealand to do that Red Bull thing.
Yeah.
You went to the X Games. You went to the X Games, didn't you?
I went to the US Open.
US Open.
Never went to the X Games. I think.
Like that's a level up, isn't it? Like that's a level. That's maybe more than one level up from, most of the people at the time who were, sort of saying that they were a pro snowboarder or whatever. They were getting some kit and doing a season or whatever, and that's fine.
Isn't it? Kind of gets thrown around a little
but there was a few of you who actually we're actually like on a pathway.
Yeah.
Do you know when you're on that path, or do you make that pathway happen?
Yeah, I think you're in control of your own destiny, aren't you? You have to choose how it pans out, I suppose.
Yeah.
I guess. So I signed to Oakley in 2002.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I was just kind of being flowed goggles, I guess, which I was very grateful for. And then there was a big push on the apparel side, so I signed to head to toe in 2002. And that was quite a defining moment. And it was like, okay, I wasn't getting paid a huge amount, but it was probably enough to see me through a season.
Yeah.
Which kind of took the pressure off in the summer, working-wise, and that was quite a defining moment of like, okay, I'm getting paid here to do something that I absolutely
Have you done
love
like
to
the
do.
shit jobs in the summer?
Yeah, I mean, I actually worked pretty much all the way through my career, actually. Just doing
what?
So, well, like in the early days, I worked in home base for a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah. That was before my first season.
Handy discount. Are you a handy person?
At home?
Yeah.
Well, my wife would probably say not, but I think I'm probably quite handy. No, I'm okay. I'm not. I'm not naturally gifted.
No.
I can rip things out. I'm pretty good at that.
Someone's got to do it.
Demolition. I'm pretty handy. So yeah, I worked. I tried to work as much as I could in the summer because ultimately it gave me a bit more money during the season.
Then you can afford to go and do things as well as just be on a season. You can get to places.
Yeah, exactly. And then when I signed to Oakley, like I said, it was quite a defining moment because it meant that it allowed me to commit to a lot more trips during the winter that I could do with different magazines with White Lines.
Yeah. Who was at Oakley at the time? Was it Stu Morgan?
Stu Morgan, and it was Jamie Baker who got me on initially.
Right.
So I left West Beach to sign for Oakley. And then I'm trying to think. So Tyler Charlton would have been on Oakley at the time as well.
Right.
On apparel. Elliot was still on it. Cybrass was on goggles. So the team in the UK was pretty big. Quite a few of us.
Yeah, certainly goggles wise, everybody was rocking
but on
on
apparel, it was like myself and Elliot and Tyler. And Jenny was obviously on goggles as well.
Yeah.
And
what boards were you riding? Were you on Ride by then?
Ride.
Did you rode for them for a long time, didn't you?
Yeah, forever. Initially joined on Morrow.
Yeah. Before that got
Sort of
kind of binned off, didn't it?
Yeah. And then, because it was part of the same distributor in the UK.
Yeah, it was West Beach and Morrow, wasn't it?
That's right. And then joined Ride. And then I stayed on their boards all the way through until I stopped in 2010.
Were you on their international team?
No, it was it was like their UK/European team.
Right.
So mainly UK, but we got involved in quite a lot of the projects that they were doing internationally and through Europe. So it was great. Like they were really pushing us to be more integrated into the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which is really cool. They didn't need to do that, and the same for Oakley at the time. They were always trying to get us a bit more exposure to the other markets.
Yeah, I guess Oakley had sort of quite deep pockets, didn't they? Or a big reach as well.
Yeah. We were quite close with their European team manager, and the projects that they were doing locally were always being kind of recognised on an international stage.
Yeah,
which was super cool. So I'd rode for them again all the way through until I stopped in 2010, and each year we were able to do more and more campaigns with them because they invested quite heavily in the UK riders. So they might do like a UK campaign around their snow products, and we would be featured in the O store in Covent Garden.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that still there?
Still there, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I remember when that opened. That was quite a big deal, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's now, I think it's now like a collab between them and Ray-Ban, but no, yeah, it's predominantly an Oakley store. But,
Sick.
And then I signed to Red Bull in 2005.
That's a heavy old contract to sign, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, but that again was kind of quite a defining moment that, you know.
What was, you know, like where were you at when you signed with those? Like what sort of pushed that over the edge for them to have you on?
So they did, I don't know if you remember, 2004, they did the Red Bull Railstorm in Glasgow.
Nope.
You don't remember that?
No.
So they did 2 back-to-back. They did one in Glasgow and then one in London in 2005 in Trafalgar Square.
I know about that one.
So the year before London,
Yeah.
they had one in Glasgow,
All right.
which was insane. George Square, right bang in the centre, man-made structure, double kinks, flat, you know, just a whole array of like rails down the stairs. A similar setup to what they had in London, but slightly smaller. And then they invited maybe 10 to 12 international teams. They had a team captain. Same again, structures like London, you would invite 2 other people to compete.
Right.
And Kat McKenzie at the time, who was the team manager for Red Bull, had reached out and said, look, we're doing this project in Glasgow. Do you want to be involved? Do you want to captain the UK team? Who would you have on your team?
Who did you have?
So it was Tyler and... who else was on it? So it was Tyler, me, and James Thorne, I think,
Oh, yeah.
at the time. Who was pretty sick. And so Tyler was pretty much next level.
Yeah.
But we were riding against, like, you know, like Heike, Aero, the US team had flown in, some of the best rail riders in the world, and then there was us, you know, competing, which was amazing opportunity. But we ended up getting second.
Nice.
Which was cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
And then that was kind of a bit of a moment, because shortly after that, then the discussions came around, sort of signing to the brand.
Yeah, that's interesting because you say like there's the rest of the world and us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I was talking when I was chatting with Christian Stevenson. When he came over, he just regarded us as part of Europe, part of that whole scene. Didn't see it as a... And I was like, that's fascinating because I always never saw the UK scene as part of the European scene.
Mm-hmm.
It was aside from that, but he just completely was like, oh, you're just part of the European scene, obviously, because that's where you are.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting when you say, you know, like there was all the rest of everybody and then us, as if we didn't deserve a space there. Do you know what I mean? But you guys were as good as...
Well, I suppose
and clearly
we
were as good as anyone.
Yeah, we were. Clearly we were, because we wouldn't have got second otherwise. But being on that kind of stage with those international guys was amazing at the same time. But being able to perform and deliver and stand on the podium and be like...
I mean, that must be quite a moment, because there'll be people there that you'll have looked up to.
Well, yeah, and then only ever seen them in videos.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you're sort of mixing with them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and then obviously getting offered, you know, Red Bull, that then takes you up another level, doesn't it?
Well, that's it. And it opened up so many doors to do various different projects and opportunities and trips with the other teams, the other athletes. And again, that's how the trip to New Zealand came about.
Tell me about that, because that was a fucking great big jump, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fucking ridiculous. It's still to this day the biggest thing I've ever hit.
What was the premise of it for people that don't know?
So again, I got a phone call from Kat, at the time the team manager, and she's like, "Oh, we're because what would happen is Red Bull International, the various regions would do their own activations, and they would then reach out internally to the various Red Bull regions and HQ and say, look, we're doing an activation in New Zealand. Would you like to A, get involved, and B, would you want to send any of your local athletes? So then obviously Kat got a heads up, and she got a quota for a couple of riders to go down and join in.
Yeah.
So it was called Red Bull Backcountry. Shot in Queenstown, sort of August. And by this point, this is kind of April, May. And she's like, Travis, Rice, John Jackson and Scotty Lego are going down to New Zealand to shoot a project called Red Bull Backcountry.
Right.
Do you want to go?
There's only one answer to that question, right?
Well, instantly I'm like, fucking right, let's go. I'm well up for it. Without really knowing exactly what it entailed. And she's like, well, basically they're filming a video that's due to be released September, October 2007.
Right.
So I think, would that have been that's it,
that's all.
So they were filming for that.
Yeah.
Not knowing it was that.
Yeah.
And the idea is they want to build a park kicker in the backcountry.
Right.
That's only accessible by snowmobiles and helicopters.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay. Instantly starting to retract my eagerness and stokedness to be involved. And I was like, okay, cool. So bear in mind, I'd only done a month's worth of snowboarding then.
Right.
Because the previous October, I had a grade 4 separation on my shoulder.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was training in Breckenridge.
Yeah.
Staying with Nate Kern at the time. Second day in, spun onto a rail, caught my heel edge, bounced the landing, fucked my shoulder. Long story short, had surgery, had to go back to Edinburgh, and 4 months off, so, recouping and rehabbing and physio, and managed to get the tail end of that season up in Avory House, and then I came back and that was it, done. So a couple of weeks later, Kat phones me and tells me this whole story. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll make it work, right? I'm well up for it. And then she said, oh, look, there's a you can take somebody with you. Who would you like to go? And I was like, well, Nate Kern for sure, because I've done quite a lot of riding with him, and I know he'd be well up for it. So we both flew down there to Queenstown, probably 10 days before the project started.
Right.
Because I was like, I need to go and ride.
Yeah.
Find my feet. So Jono Verity was filming. So he came down with me to film for the 10 days prior so I could bank some content for the next lockdown video.
Yeah, of course.
At Snowpark.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Queenstown to the Red Bull house, because they have a massive house there that all the athletes can stay in.
Of course they did.
Of course they did. It was sick. And then that was it. There was like a kind of 7-8 day window of going up to, would it be the Remarkables?
I don't know. I've never been.
To film this kicker.
Yeah.
So day one we go up there, and sure enough, Travis and John Jackson and Scotty Lego are there. We meet them, and the whole crew go up to this jump. But they built the jump, which was enormous, like 100 plus feet to the landing, takeoff, over 30 meters. It was huge, absolutely huge. And there was a problem. There was an issue with the wind, so there was like a weather issue that had sort of come in, and we couldn't hit it. So, sure enough, but it was like really beautiful blue skies, but there was just this kind of issue with wind, so we couldn't hit it. So they did a couple of test runs of speed into the takeoff, but they just didn't want to risk it. So over the next 3 to 4 days, we were coming back up every morning to test the weather, test the speed. Just wasn't right. Day was called off. Go away, come back. And I think after about 5 or 6 days, they just said we need to go back to the US. So they canned it.
No way.
And left. And Nate and I were still there. So because we still had quite a lot of time left, and Red Bull had obviously paid for this amazing activation, we'll just keep going until we get a weather window, until it opens up. Because they'd paid for the chopper time, and the helicopters were there and all that kind of stuff, which was so surreal.
So was it just you two left?
Well, it was Nate and I, and then quite a few other riders were kind of dipping in and dipping out.
Right.
So other pros that were in the area, or who are other Red Bull athletes. that were available, but because this weather issue kept recurring and the riders couldn't stay longer, they were coming and going. And then lo and behold, after a few days, we got an opening in the weather, and we were good to go.
How many times you hit it? Because I've seen the backside 180 you did over it.
So I must have hit it maybe 3 or 4 times.
Did Nate hit it as well?
He hit it as well.
I haven't seen that. That
So I
didn't
think
make
he
it.
might have. I think it was a back 3 he did. Back 3. But it was absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. But they had a local rider came up who actually tested it and tested the in-run, tested the speed, and man, he'd balls of steel. He went right over it, like
Yeah.
hit the landing. As soon as he made the landing, everybody was like, right, we know exactly where to drop from, and hit the speed. But you had to, the way that it was made on this particular aspect, you had to like hold your jacket in to try and tuck. So if you can imagine like the speed we were doing today, full gas,
Yeah.
and trying to hit a jump like that, it was absolutely insane. But it was awesome. Like, it was an amazing opportunity. And I'll never forget, like, Jono was filming from the helicopter.
Yeah, I was going to say, the shots
Hovering.
from the helicopter, isn't it?
On my right side, I'd walked up and strapped in, and obviously, like, looked to my right. The doors are open in the helicopter. Jono's harnessed in, clipped to the side with the camera, giving it the old, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit, this is pretty mental. And then giving the sign and then sort of dropping in. But I got a back 1 over it, which was pretty sick. I was pretty happy with. But after that, I was done. I didn't do any of that other spins over it.
Did Travis and those guys ever see the footage and sort of any feedback or anything?
No, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know.
It's wild, isn't it?
It's mental.
All that expense for people to be there. What are those guys like to hang out? Did you hang out with them like on the?
We hung out
down
with
days?
them a little bit just during the day. I think they were staying somewhere else actually, so we didn't really get a chance to properly hang out and interact with them. But yeah, they were really nice. They were really sound, really welcoming of us being there, and safety was first and foremost. They didn't want to risk anyone's.
Is that like the wildest sort of place that snowboarding took you?
I think one of them, yeah, definitely. In terms of who was involved,
Yeah.
and why we're there, and the situation that we were in, absolutely, yeah. To have been, next to those people,
Yeah.
in an environment where we could be hitting the same jump,
Yeah.
it was pretty surreal.
That's mad.
It's crazy, ridiculous. In terms of that sort of situation, but yeah, I did a trip to Japan with Matt Parr for Whitelands once, which was pretty awesome from a culture perspective, and getting to ride Japan.
Did you get a good POW?
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it was pretty sick.
Can't imagine you riding POW.
Really?
No.
What is that?
I don't know, just don't look like a...
Because I'm a park rat.
Yeah.
Really? Is that what people think?
See you on a split board.
I
Have
know.
you ever been split boarding?
Never.
No.
I'd be up for it though.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Have to get you up for the up battle then. In March.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Come up to Aviemore.
If there's snow.
You never know, do you? We went last year and it was I booked my train ticket. Jez was like, get to my house, I'll drive, take care of everything. I was like, all right, sweet. And I think I was supposed to get to his house on the Wednesday. I think I booked my train ticket on the Monday. And just after I booked my train ticket, he phoned me up and said, that was cancelled. There is no snow. I was like, well, I've booked my train ticket. So he's like, well, we'll go anyway. Go and watch that rail comp at that place. Do you know what I mean? I was like, all right, cool. Feels like I'm driving the entire length of the country to go and watch a little rail comp, like a dry slope rail comp. Seems like a lot of effort, but let's do it anyway. Mm-hmm. And then 2 days of rain, but it was snowing up the top, and we got powder up there on the Saturday. Had a powder day.
It can be really good.
Well, a powder morning with Johnny Barr, and it was like,
yeah,
who would have guessed?
Yeah, and you would have missed that.
I went with no expectations.
Yeah.
And, got the goods.
That's the thing, you know, on a good day with snow up there, it can be amazing. It can be so fun.
When was it? Oh, you went up for the British Champs that was up there a couple of years ago, didn't you?
Yeah.
And won.
I won the Masters.
You won
the Masters.
Would you have won?
Won the overall?
Yeah.
Against the other younger kids?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. No, not at all.
Tim Ward's still fucking spitting about that, isn't he?
Do you know what? It was so funny when I was listening to his podcast and that bit came on. I mean, yeah, his props were cool. But that was amazing. Like, they built the most amazing park.
Yeah.
It was awesome. They did. So it goes to show they've
got the facilities.
They've got the facilities. They've got the kit. They've got the right area. If they've got snow, they can build it. You know, it was so fun. And bearing in mind, I hadn't hit any jumps like that for years.
Yeah.
You know.
You still had it in the tank though.
Yeah, and I think we've spoken about it the last few days. I feel it's in there. Just it's confidence. It's.
I mean, you keep yourself in good nick, don't you? Do a lot of physical.
Yeah, I do a lot of training. I'm in the gym a lot.
Yeah.
Do a lot of like functional fitness and yeah.
Is that something you've always been into, or is that just because
not really.
you like? I'm assuming your work is fairly office based.
Yeah.
Not an active role. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you're building walls or anything.
No. But
so did you realise that you needed to do that if you want to do the things that you want to do?
I think, well, I've probably got that mindset now.
Yeah.
And I understand that if I want to be active with my kids and do snowboarding and do the things that I do, I need to be, I need to be strong. I need to be in shape.
Yeah.
But when I first started, no, it wasn't like that. I was, because I'd been snowboarding for over 10 years, and it was, summers, it was winters, and when I signed to Red Bull, we did these kind of, I suppose they opened my eyes a little bit to the kind of whole strength and conditioning program, because they had somebody that would coach and train their athletes.
Really?
To ensure that they're in good shape and they can help with strength work before their season kicks off, and they would monitor and you check in a couple of times a year. And
because I guess you must have been on that first wave of that stuff coming in.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't long before that where everyone was just snowboarders were just snowboarders.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? They
anything.
weren't treated like athletes. It was you just turn up and ride.
Exactly, and that's what I did probably before, like in my earlier years, because I was young and I could sort of bounce back fairly easily and quickly.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until sort of Red Bull opened my eyes up to that whole world of, you could be doing this. That might be helping your power output on your snowboard and your pop, and they would replicate a lot of different movements that would help the structure of your snowboarding, which totally makes sense, right? So I got opened to all that type of training. So when I finished snowboarding, quite abruptly, because my sort of career changed, I was trying to fill the void. Right. Of, okay, well that's done now.
What led you to stop? Like, did you know your sort of days were up as a pro, or
no, not really. I mean,
or did just circumstances just steer you in a different direction?
Just opportunity. So so this would have been kind of summer 2010.
Yeah.
And I was starting to think about where I was going to go for the winter. I was thinking Marhofen potentially, because the previous season in Morzine the snow was pretty crap.
Yeah.
And Gary, and there was a whole scene in Marhofen. I thought, well, look, I could maybe tap into that. That would be amazing, because the park there is sick, and they maintain it, and they've got loads of backcountry opportunities. And I thought, well, I've maybe got another few seasons left in me. Physically, I was fine. I wasn't injured.
Yeah.
I know within the industry there was a bit of change. Brands were pulling out. But I was quite lucky. I had some good sponsors. And then my TM at the time at Oakley, Kelly Parsons, she was amazing. She phoned me up. Must have been like July, August time. She's like, look, I've got some news. I'm leaving Oakley. And I was like, absolutely gutted.
Yeah.
Because I'd been through quite a few changes over the years, and she was brilliant. And then she's like, but I've put you forward to replace me at Oakley.
Wow.
to head up the sports marketing for.
So you'd never had a conversation before,
No,
like,
never.
oh, maybe I'd like to do this in the future.
No, I think maybe we'd had previous conversations over the years, and
Yeah.
I'd maybe said, like, oh, I'd love to maybe get into marketing or sports marketing or athlete management at some point, but I didn't really have any time frame on it or be how I would even do it, right? Because I've just been snowboarding for 10 years. And she'd said, oh, I'm leaving, however, I've put you forward to take over. And I was like, what do you mean? She said, yeah, I think you'd be great. And I've spoken to Tom Cartmill at the time, who was the marketing director. He was aware, he wants to chat to you. And I was like, holy shit, okay. So next day, quick brief chat with him. A couple of days later, flew to London, meeting in the office. 2 weeks later, done. I was commuting to London.
Not a pro snowboarder anymore.
No, literally, that was it.
Fucking hell, that's crazy.
That was it. Because I came off the phone and I spoke to Katie, and I was like, "Oh man, this is ridiculous. This is an amazing opportunity. I cannot say no. I would be stupid."
Did you feel that you had stuff left undone on a snowboard though? Do you know what I mean? It's easy to look at the next thing and go, oh, I'm going to go and do that, but then you can find yourself there looking back thinking, oh, actually, still
I think
a bit
probably,
of juice in the tank for
I think coverage wise, I was pretty content. I'd had a few interviews.
Yeah.
I had a handful of fun covers, some good video parts with lockdown projects, and some good exposure internationally.
Yeah.
Transworld, Onboard, Method Mag. So I was really content there, and I was very grateful for all the coverage that I'd had. Trick wise, there was probably a few things that I would have liked to have done.
Like?
Probably a double cork, and I never got a chance to rip one.
Did you ever really cork? You always seem to be quite a flat spinning kind of guy.
I think I went upside. I used to go upside down occasionally, but I didn't mean it. It was all unintentional.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone can relate to that.
Yeah. I guess like some of my back sevens would go corked a little bit, right, occasionally. Some of the cab, I didn't do full cab underflips, but I could kind of dip my shoulder a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I was getting off axis, if that's the technical term. But
did you do the big Voyeurs road gap?
No, I didn't. I didn't do that.
Why not?
I was away when they were all doing it.
Oh, okay.
I had proper FOMO though.
Would you have done it?
If I was there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have given it a crack for sure. Whether I would have got anything off it, I'm not sure, but I would have flung myself off it, definitely.
That's a beast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a beast. Yeah, Gary got a sick photo on that. Nelson as well. He got a sick shot on it. I remember, where was I at the time? I think I might have been in Japan at the time, actually. And I got back and everyone was like, oh, you missed the sick session. And I was like, oh.
Is that the sort of thing that only happens like once a season at best?
Because the snow has to be so perfect.
Yeah.
And the light, the wind, the conditions have to be spot on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was done. But that would have been cool. But yeah, no, I think overall I was super content with what I'd done and achieved. But yeah, trip wise, just for me personally, there was probably a few things that I would have loved to have had a go at.
Yeah.
But overall, generally, I was like...
What age were you at that point as well?
So I would have been 29.
Right.
Yeah, and that was it. We went down to London, saw Tom. Katie and I had already had a holiday planned the following week.
Right.
Did that, came home, and the agreement was that I would commute from Edinburgh. So I'd fly down on a Tuesday morning on the red eye, fly back on Thursday night, 3 days in the office, 2 days at home.
Yeah.
And I did that for 2.5 years.
That long.
Literally straight off the bat. But yeah.
And did you enjoy that work? Like, what was your then responsibility there? Were you then looking after like all the UK?
Yeah, so it was the UK subsidiary. So my role was UK sports marketing manager.
Right.
And my job was to manage all the contracted athletes at the time.
Was that across
all sports?
All sports.
Yeah. We had a lot. We had like 50.
Did you have to go into like meetings with people that you didn't quite understand what they were? Like you didn't, like you don't know their sports. Like obviously you know snowboarding really well.
Yeah.
Probably skiing's not so much, and then other things.
Yeah, I guess those industries that I'd not spent time in before.
Well, of course, yeah.
Like wakeboarding or skiing a little bit, because we'd seen a lot of the athletes at the Brits, but I'd not been entrenched into that industry.
Yeah.
So skiing and... I mean, the skate world, not so much, but I skated. I got...
Yeah.
You know, I had that interest there, so I knew exactly what the gist was and how they performed and what they did. And so, yeah, a lot of it was kind of fact finding. You know, you have to just throw yourself into that industry and turn up at events and seed product and manage the existing athletes. And because we invested a lot in campaign materials as well for each of the athletes that were key. So like mountain bike was a huge one as well. So. But it was quite cool because I was already had been on the same team as quite a few of the athletes.
Okay.
So like Baz Keep and the Athertons on. Baz was obviously, he's a BMXer. So, but I used to spend quite a lot of time on team trips with them.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden now I'm their team manager on Oakley. So, but it was amazing. Like it was.
I mean, that's a dream gig. Well, it seems like a natural progression from a lot of snowboarders. Or pro snowboarders then go into that side of the industry, don't they? Because it seems like a natural. You understand what the job is because you've done the job.
Exactly,
and then you just help other people do the job.
Yeah, and you have that instant connection with the athletes. That you know exactly what they're going through.
Yeah.
If they're injured or if they're competing, and when to give them space, when to stay away, when to interact. How to be around them, and and I guess like the majority of them knew who I was just from being on Oakley anyway, as a snowboarder, being part of the team. So, I sort of picked up where Kelly left off because she'd moved on to a different brand and a different position. So, but yeah, it gave me that platform to get into the industry
and
work for a brand. And then 6 months later, my role had changed, so I took on all the mainstream sports, or traditional sports as they called it back then. So it was like road cycling, athletics, Olympic sports, which threw me into the world of, rowing and athletics and road cycling and everything else. So I was applying the same structure that I would do when I was around all the action sports guys, but mainly on the mainstream sports.
Was the culture of that quite different? Like, is it a lot to learn coming into more traditional sports because they've already got their structures, do you know what I mean, that are probably different to a lot of the action sports that you would have grown up with and around, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it was so new for me, so I had to just throw myself in. Cricket was a big one as well. So going to Lords and spending time with the athletes and seeding product. The structure's the same, Do
you like cricket?
Do you know what? I can watch it. I can quite enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, I quite enjoy any sport now. Back when I was younger, I was very skate, snowboard. Do
you watch A Question of Sport?
You asked me that today. I don't think I answered you the first time.
Don't think you did.
I would put it on if I'm flicking through channels and I get to it. I'll just I won't make a point of saying then.
Because some people just love sport, don't they? They'll just put the TV on any sport and they'll sit and watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, most people sort of have a bit of that around an Olympics.
Yes.
I guess. Do you know what I mean? People suddenly, all of a sudden, become knowledgeable about some random event just because they're sat and they get into it.
Yeah.
They get the story and they go, oh, okay, I can buy into this.
Yeah. I suppose, I'm a bit like that. Like, I can sit and watch anything. I've got appreciation for any sport because I know, like, I'm a sucker for the sports documentaries. I love understanding what the athletes go through to get to where they're at. Like, I love the preparation and the training, and I love all that stuff.
See, I'm like that with music documentaries.
Yeah?
Yeah. Give me a music documentary. I'm as happy as a pig in shit.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do, I love all that kind of stuff.
So what's your job now?
So I work for Warner Brothers Discovery Sport, and I'm head of commercial partnerships for our global sports championships that we have. And that includes a lot of kind of linear TV and digital media components as well.
So you've lost me now.
Yeah.
You're using words I don't understand, or I don't know how those words apply to anything.
Yeah.
I mean, is that you've sort of almost like you entered that world through chance, essentially. Someone put you into that world.
Yeah,
and now you're sort of doing. I mean, like, is it a career that you would have chosen to do? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, some people work towards a thing that they want to do.
Yeah.
And then some people just, opportunities open and they open the door and they go and do that. And
yeah. I think the whole Oakley partnership that I obviously entered in 2002 has paved that way for where I am today. You know, I don't think I'd be here in the role I am without having to sign to them. So I'm still very, very grateful for the support that they gave me over the years and the doors that has opened, because, you know, I just know they don't come up very often.
Yeah.
And being able to be in that position, it's...
Did those roles and this role that you're in now, does it afford you? I mean, obviously we're sat out in the Alps going snowboarding, but do you get to do as much as you would like to do, or does work taken over, and family obviously?
Yeah, work, family. You know, we obviously, you know, we go on summer holidays and, you know, we take the kids away obviously and things like that, which is awesome. Snowboarding for me at the moment is kind of become quite a short, condensed yearly trip, you know, like 4 or 5 days. Yeah. Which I'm fine with, you know.
Is that time constraints just because you've got lots of things to do?
Yeah, I think so. But I feel like we kind of cram 7 days into 4 because of the amount of riding that we do. You know, we don't really muck about. We're, you know, up there for 9, come off the hill at 5. You know, doing that for 7 days in a row, I don't know, I'd probably be in bits at the end of it. Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know that I could attack many days like we attacked today. Yeah. Like, I couldn't do a week of that. And we've got 2 more.
We have got 2 more. It's only going to get worse as well when Jono turns up.
I know. But yeah, I don't really get the opportunity to go away for, you know, long periods of time on the snow anymore. Yeah. But I'm fine with that, you know, because I've done so much of it over the years. But I've got to a point now where as long as I can try and get at least a few days in a year. So it's still like on your to-do list? Oh yeah, definitely now, yeah. Yeah. When I stopped, it's weird, I didn't snowboard for like 4 years. I didn't. Why is that? Because I've talked to Danny about that as well. I mean, he didn't go snowboard for like 10 years. Did he not? Was it 10 years? Yeah, I think so. That's quite a stint. And we were talking today about it, and he was sort of saying that he just didn't know, he kind of didn't know how to treat snowboarding. So the best way for him was just to not do it at all. Yeah. And then try and reset. Now he's sort of resetting what snowboarding means to him, and he was saying, oh, you know, maybe it's just a hobby. I can just book a holiday every year and go and do it and have fun and not. But I guess for a long time there was a lot of pressure on him to do things. Did you have that same sort of thing? Yeah, towards the end, because there was always a purpose. Yeah. There was always, right, we're going up to shoot this, we're going up to build that. Yeah. You know, we didn't really razz around or, you know, the riding was from A to B because we were going somewhere to film or going somewhere to shoot or meet somebody to take them shooting or whatever it may be. Yeah, yeah. So although it was great, you know, it was a job, wasn't it? You know, I guess so. In a funny way. So when I stopped, it was weird. I think physically I wanted to go, but mentally I couldn't physically actually get myself to go. I thought it was weird. Right. It was like a sort of block of... Well, it's funny, you can kind of turn it off. Like, I didn't go for 5 years. Like, after we sold the chalet and everything. And it was like September, October, November, December. It's like, oh, winter's coming. I want to go. But then it's quite easy just to sort of... You're in your life, and then all of a sudden it's April, and then you're like, oh, well, season's finished. Gone. Yeah. Don't have to think about it again until then that cycle would happen again, and you just... It's quite easy just to miss seasons because you're busy doing other things. Yeah, you're just... Other things take over, family, work, commitments. Yeah. It took me a few years. And my brothers, actually, they were like, let's go snowboarding. I was like, nah, I'm not interested. And then eventually, after a couple of years, I think the three of us went away together, actually. It was brilliant. It was so good. Because I think my thing at the time was, you know, who do I go away with? Like, who do I book to go away snowboarding with? And, you know, because everybody was off doing their own things and they were so busy. And I sort of felt like, well, if I go away with my brothers, it'll be a sort of safe environment. You know, just we can do whatever. There's no expectation. Yeah. That's maybe what it could have been like. You know, prior to that, there's always an expectation of you have to perform. But we went away and just absolutely booted around and did what we did today, and that was it. It was like, oh my god, this is amazing, you know. And it was only a few days. Yeah. And then we came back, and the year after it was like, right, you know, WhatsApp group gets created, invite loads of people. Who's in?
See who makes it.
That's it. And then it became a yearly thing, and you know, we've been doing it for sort of 5 or 6 years now, where, you know, Dave and Ribbo have been coming, and people dip in and dip out depending if they can make it or not. So it's good. The love of snowboarding is definitely there, for sure.
So given all those things, I mean, like ripping around today, I mean, it's a solid crew of good riders. I'm not including myself in that, but like, you know, you can still snowboard fucking good. I mean, you know, and it's a solid crew of people who were good. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so how does that feel, like going snowboarding now? There's not really sort of that competitiveness because it's all a bit jokey because obviously everyone's getting a bit older and everything, but you can kind of sense that there's still like somebody wants to do something good. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You feeling that?
I definitely feel that, yeah. I feel like the first couple of days are a bit rusty. Yeah. Then you hit day 3 and you're like, okay, I'm pretty comfortable now. My boots are feeling good, board's feeling good. And then you're like, well, you know, maybe I can try this, and maybe can I still do that? Like, I don't know if I've not done that for a while, so I'll try that, and egging each other on. You know, side hits for all of us seem to be like the main kind of release of freestyle action, which is brilliant. You know, I get so stoked on seeing everyone do something that they like, or you know, like just whatever, like an indie grab or a melon or whatever it is. It's just, you know, it's all about the kind of small, the small gains. Yeah, so much pleasure, the marginal gains. Yeah, that's what it is.
But like sitting here after a day like today, or like the last couple of days, like tell me what snowboarding means to you.
I think probably twofold. I think what we've just been experiencing the last few days, just charging around, mates, having a laugh, close friends that I've spent a lot of time with, you know, yourself, Danny, Ribbo, Dave, you know, and Chris. Just, I've not done a huge amount of riding with him, actually.
Well, I mean, we've never ridden together.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You know, a solid crew of people that have been around for a long time, you know. And we're all so stoked on each other's kind of marginal gains that they might rip off a cap track, or, you know, everyone's just so happy. It's great. It's awesome. But then also as well, you know, the enjoyment of seeing my kids are skiing now, which is amazing. Yeah. You know, they're 11 and 9. And I've, you know, as soon as we had Ella, and then Monroe obviously came along a couple of years later, I kind of had this vision of getting them on snow at some point and sort of replicating what I had when I was younger. And now they can ski, and the 4 of us or 3 of us or 4 of us can go skiing together or riding together, and that's amazing. That's so cool. Being at the back and they're just ripping about and doing their thing, and it's cool.
Have they shown any interest in snowboarding?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, they're like itching to get. They want lessons. They want to try and do it. Yeah, yeah, because they see me kind of ripping about and going over the jumps at Hill End and things like that with them, having quite a lot of fun.
You've been back onto dry slope?
Yeah, I've been back on a lot.
Have you?
Yeah, because I take them up. I take them up to Hill End,
mate.
Which is it's so, because I spent a lot of time there.
Yeah.
In the earlier years, so kind of going back to when we were only doing it in the winters, and then a scene kind of brewed up at Hill End, and then we were up there every Friday night, every Tuesday and Sunday, and we had a company fabricate some jumps, and we lifted them out and tied them on. So we, for 4 or 5 years, we were up there all the time. As soon as I went to Whistler, I didn't go back at all. Just stopped. And then over the last kind of 3 or 4 years, was introducing the kids to ski lessons and got them quite into it. And now they're at a level where they probably don't need lessons anymore. It's just the doing part. It's just going up and actually doing it. So I was like, okay, well, let's go. I'll take you up. So I've got an old board, and we'll go up maybe once a week at night.
Is it Dendex or is it Snowflex?
Mainly Dendex, but the jump is Snowflex. So we've got a bit of a loop. So we'll go up for an hour and blast around, and then the kids are done. But that's all we need, just once a week, twice a week, just the doing part. So it's quite surreal going up the Pomma, and I'm like, still here. Part of the furniture.
That's so rad. I mean, the last time I went back, our local dry slope was closing. Yeah. Or I heard it was closing, like where me and Dave used to ride. And they were like, it's like a freestyle night. We're going to get all the ramps out and stuff. And I was like, I'm going to drive up from Brighton. I'm going to go and represent. There won't be anyone else that knows of our heritage here. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But I was like, I feel like I've got to go. So I went in like my snowboarding, like my Volcom denim trousers, a fucking leather jacket.
Wow.
I know, it was such a legend. It was such a flex. And when I got to the top, my brain was like, what the fuck are you doing? This looks so dangerous.
Yeah.
Did a couple of runs, and then they got the jumps out. And I was like, I've got to hit them.
Oh my God.
And I've never been so scared on a snowboard, I don't think. Just like what was so commonplace, like that's what you did, reps over and over again.
You just lap it all the time.
To being terrified of the thing that you used to do. Unbelievable.
Absolutely terrified. But they love it. They absolutely love it. So, and that I get a lot of enjoyment out of seeing them riding it. So it's cool. And it's a great facility. The jumps really, it's fun actually. It's good. And a couple of weeks ago it snowed in Edinburgh.
That's like the holy grail of dry slope riding, isn't it, when it snows?
Yeah, honestly. It snowed like 5 or 6 inches, right? So you weren't actually riding on the Dendex.
Yeah.
And it was like 0 degrees, -1. And I'm at the very top, and there's like snow absolutely everywhere. No Dendex. And you could catch an egg. You were like actually carving. And I was like, man, this is fucking ridiculous. This is sick. Then we went back up like 2 other nights afterwards, like consecutively.
Yeah.
And it stayed cold and it frozen, so it was actually like you were riding a piste. Yeah, it was cool. So when it gets snow, it's a good facility.
And so, just to finish off, why should someone who's, as you know, you had a break. Talking about Danny earlier, I had a break. Why should someone who hasn't been snowboarding for a while, he might be listening to this thinking, it's been a while, I don't know what to do. Why should they go snowboarding?
Just get out there, go into it. You need to relive that feeling of being on the snow or being on the Dendex. Because I think you, for me, and you might relate to this, I kind of forcefully pushed that feeling away, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've done it for so long. But then when you reintroduce it back into your life, God, it's so fun. Just get out there. Do it. Go to your local dry slope. Go to your local indoor. Even better if you can get to the Alps.
Yeah.
Go to the mountains. Breathe that fresh air. Get back on it. It's brilliant.
So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. What a time we had out of the Three Valleys. Firstly, send a massive shout out to Chris Moran for having us. He is the ultimate host. He made sure we had some food when we when we got there, he took us out shredding, showed us around the three valleys, which, considering I lived not far away in Bourg Saint-Maurice for many, many years, and I think I visited Maribel for the British Champs one year, I had no idea how big the Three Valleys is. I mean, we got lost around Maribel, then headed over to Val Thorens one day, and just incredible. It's so vast that I mean, you'd need a season to get to know it all, I think. So anyway, we had a great time. We found lots of side hits. As I said, like, we were all trying to get back something that we might have once had with varying success. A lot of falling over, a lot of high speed burning around, a few landed tricks, some near grabs, I suppose. Certainly from my point of view, struggling to get my hands down to my board. But good times, all in all, good times. We had Cool Bus Rob and James Phillips come over and ride for a day. John O'Verity turned up for the last day, so we had a day macking around with him and Ryan and John from his video production company that we talked about on his episode. So yeah, all good, really, all good. What a trip. If you were watching, you might have seen online that there was some rocks that fell onto the road into the Tarentaise Valley last week that closed the road, and there's some dash cam footage has appeared. But anyway, that kind of held us up. We flew into Geneva early on the Friday morning, and the idea was we'd get to the Three Valleys and have an afternoon, but then it turned out that the road was going to be closed. So we took the opportunity to go snowboarding somewhere else for a few hours, and we stopped at a resort called Semnoz, which is just outside of Annecy. And it's a really small resort, but it was perfect for like warming your legs up, razzing around. You know, we were just trying to find hits and stuff. You can pay by the hours. I think it was like €15 for 3 hours. And there's a lift which has chair lifts and gondolas on it, which I've never seen before. And it was brilliant. Just a fun little place with incredible views across like Annecy and sort of the Jura to the north, and then looking like east and south. It was Mont Blanc and the Alps. And I think if you were going to be taking kids to learn to, or someone to teach them how to snowboarding, or someone's first snowboarding trip, I mean, obviously check the snow because the altitude's not too high. But it would be well worth checking that place out to go and take your first snowboarding sort of turns, because it all comes back to the same place. There's a cafe right at the bottom. As I say, you can get on the gondola, so you don't have to deal with the chairlift. The runs aren't too long, so like you're not going to get really knackered if you go up to the top. And yeah, perfect, really. Absolutely perfect. And we were all blown away, and I definitely want to go back there. Like when we get our kids out snowboarding, I'm definitely going to go to Semnoz. So yeah, go and check that out if you haven't already. I want to send a shout out to Lizzie and Dan from Burton for providing board bindings, and to Tom from Volcom for hooking me up with some threads and some outerwear, which actually on the last day it was sort of a cross between rain and snow, and the outerwear performed admirably. So go check out Volcom. Their Gore-Tex stuff is really, really good if you need some of that kind of thing. Also, Oakley goggles, Transform gloves. Shout out to Tom Kingsnorth, obviously, for all the kit that makes it work. And of course, shout out the TSA for looking after snowboarders for the last 35 years. As I always bang on about, if you need kit, go and see those guys. Don't do the thing of going to the shop, getting advice, and then buying online. That is a proper dick move. Go and see the people that are in snowboarding for snowboarding, get their advice and buy from them and keep them, support the industry. That's what we like. Snowboarders for snowboarders. It'll only do it if we do it. No one else is going to come and save us, right? So yeah, all good. merch is going to be on its way soon. I'm going to sort that out next week. So if you are interested in a t-shirt, possibly a hoodie and or stickers, then I will lock down a price and I will talk about it next week. But if you are interested in a Thank You Snowboarding t-shirt, then send me a DM on Instagram at Thank You Snowboarding Podcast, or send me an email, thankyouSnowboarding@gmail.com. That'd be cool. We're going to get that sorted before the end of the winter. Let's make that happen. What else is going on? I think Mia's still been winning some contests. Oh, she's won the Crystal Globe, which is like the overall World Cup thing. So big shout out to Mia for being just a tour de force in professional snowboarding and making it look good. Yeah, not much to report this week. Just go snowboarding. If you haven't booked a trip yet, then book a trip. We're talking about the Up Battle in Glencoe happened last weekend. Looked like it was a pretty successful weekend. They are doing another one in the Cairngorms near Aviemore on the 15th and 16th of March. I'm going to try and head up for that. So if you're up there, we'll see you there. We'll also be at the Pine Martin Lodge kind of jib fest thing that they put on. So if you're heading to Scotland for that, then do come and say hi. It will be great to meet you. And then obviously after that, the British Champs in Meyerhofen. That is one for your calendar. If you haven't booked a snowboarding holiday yet and you fancy some alpine action, you want to get abroad, then get yourself to the British Champs. I think the Penken Park in Meyerhofen is on fire. Meyerhofen itself's got loads of free riding. There's a reason why some of the world's best base themselves there. It's going to be springtime, which means beers after riding in the sunshine down in town. And there's going to be a whole host of people there, some old school guys, all the kids hopefully, and just good times. And I imagine it's probably quite a bargain if you get the package. So sort that out, go to the Brits. The link will be in the show notes. Go and have a look at that. As we talked about with Scott on this week's episode, the skit with his head cam, all the lockdown projects movies are on a YouTube channel. If you want to go and subscribe to that, we kind of keep finding bits and pieces and put it on our Shredflix playlist. Go and have a look at that. All the lockdowns ones are there. The earlier ones, The Invasion and the sequel that Scott is in, they're all up there. The track that opened the show this week was Scott's choice. It was Maximo Park, Limassol, which is one of his sections in the lockdown movie project where he went to New Zealand and rode with Travis Rice. Well, not with him because the weather was bad, as you'll have heard. But yeah, the footage of his backside 180 opens up his section, which is pretty sick. So yeah, and that'll be up on the Spotify Thank You Snowboarding playlist that's up there. That's all the tunes from the starts of all the episodes and anything you want to contribute. So yeah, get on our DMs on Instagram, or again, thankyouSnowboarding@gmail.com, and I'll try and add those tracks, but they have to be from snowboard movies. So you need to tell me what movie, whose section you want it from. That's how it has to be. Otherwise we'll get tragic. It'll turn into the At Pray Pod playlist where anything goes, and we don't want that. Speaking of the At Pray Pod, I'm going to be on there pretty soon in a couple of weeks, so God knows what I'm going to talk about. But don't forget to tune into that. If you're not listening to the At Pray Pod yet, then do check that out. Tim, Ollie and Jenny do a great job, and it's really funny and really random and great. So yeah, go check that out too if you can. Again, more snowboarders doing snowboardy things. We all need your support. So yeah, hope you're all doing out there. I hope you're getting some turns in somewhere, and I'll be back next week, Thursday, 10 a.m. More Thank You Snowboarding. And I really do mean that this week. Thank you, snowboarding. It really is a beautiful thing. Take it easy. Peace.